double, double, talk that trouble. Hex offenders in your bubble. Christian cackling, Shannon got receipts. Me and Queen sweeping up the deadbeats. Black nails, big laugh, side-eye, deep cut. Name in the jar if you acting like a put. Circle cast tight, mic in the middle. One wrong move, you a roast, not a riddle. They stir, they spill, they drag, they drag. Whole damn flock in a toe tag bag. Offenders, yeah, they came to fry your vibe. From the room to the group chat live. Hex offenders, if you fake, better duck and dive. Hot tea pouring, can't survive. Hex offenders. Offenders, they like that candle talk, that smack. Turn your soft flex straight into a clap back. Which tips hit list, laugh till they cry. Sweet on the real ones, cursed if you lie. Cauldron on boil, that gossip steam. Every bad ex get tossed in the cream. You did dirt, better hope they forget, or end up headline of the episode's Hex offenders, yeah, they came to fry your vibe. From the broom to the group chat live. Hex offenders, if you fake, better duck and dive. Hot tea pouring, can't survive. Offenders. Hex offenders. Hex offenders.
Hello, hello, hello. My name is Christian Day. This is my co-host Shannon Marie Doust, and we have two lovely Gardnerian priestesses here with us tonight. High priestesses of the Long Island line. See, I know I sometimes make fun of the Long Islanders, but we do love them. Deborah Landau and Tracy Frashy. Am I saying that right? I always forget how to say your name.
Saying it right.
Frashy. And we also recommend that if you're not listening to us on YouTube, we can still see your chat, like most of it, I think. We can see your comments in the chat. However, it's better to listen and use the YouTube chat, because the YouTube chat is where we do giveaways. You know, whether it's 25% off shopping or free tickets to WitchCon or HexFest. We only do that on the YouTube because we're trying to build our numbers. So also, don't forget, where is it when you, I know they always go like this, like, where's the subscribe button? Is it there? Is it there? Is it there?
I mean, yeah, it's the bottom right. Yeah.
People didn't
we have this lovely portrait by Diana Barnes. We're actually in the Salem Temple space, but, we're in this corner that, you can only see this one. She's a wonderful artist that somehow never passed on her talent. What is it? I can see Lisa. I can see Lord Gaming 4700. Yes, I don't see a lot of people. Say something if you're in one of the chats so that we know you're here. We've got, people watching live, but, a lot of people tend to catch this after. It's why we've been trying to find that sweet spot of a time. Now it's 9 p.m. Eastern, 9 to 11. But we were doing 10 to 12, and then we tried 8 to 10, but that was just impossible for us because there's always 10 million things that happen in advance of all of this that make it, both of us are running pretty heavy businesses. So the topic, we don't always have a topic, but this week we have a topic. Seamus, are you out there listening? He probably is. I was sure to send it to him. I'm like, I actually messaged Louis Valadez / Oracle Hecateos. I said, you should come join in. Let me see if he responded. I'm that bitch. I'm super petty. I know you all disagree. Just how petty I am. Oh, what did I do? Oh no, do I have a bad feeling about this? Hold on, something went down.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
One of the
that's
things
weird.
I would say about you, Christian, is you will spend $10,000 to prove $100 point.
This is true.
That's true.
Like I will definitely. Well, that's so strange. I would swear I sent Oracle Hecateus. I know that I did. What the hell? That's so strange. I don't know. That is really strange. I would swear on my mother I actually sent him. Oh, well, that's too bad. And it's too late to do it now. But, if you want to be helpful to me, do send Louis Valadez a nice invite to the show. Because I just, I think something went up. Oh, come on. Like, why are all my technical issues wait until...
Well, we are in the shadow. Mercury's getting ready to go in retrograde.
Are we retrograde?
Yes, we're getting
Pretty
there. I was going
No,
to say,
no fucking wonder.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
No fucking wonder. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know what happened. Let me go there again and see. Oh no, I did send it. Well, that's strange. Why isn't it showing up in the mess? This Facebook shit. It really is a sucky thing. Like it never works right. Never works the way you think it's gonna.
No, it's clunky. It is.
Everything is, well, now that you've told me Mercury is retrograde.
Yep. Well, it goes in, we're in the shadow. It goes in on the 29th. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I did. So I sent it to one of them, one of his names, but not the other one. Okay, let me send it there. All right, I also sent it to his if I'm going to just sort of go there, I want to fucking go there.
And we've always invited anybody to come on, even if you disagree with us. You're welcome to come on.
I told Seamus you should call in. If Oracle Hecateus wants to call in, you know me, I'll let him on. Doesn't mean I won't speak the truth. I guess, I sort of have, even though Nene Leakes is my favorite housewife of Atlanta, I do love Kenya Moore. Because she always says, if I didn't send for you, don't come for me. So if you're going to come for me and I didn't send for you, I might have something to say. Mm-hmm. And so let me bring this up on my phone so I have notes, because there's so much about today that is interesting. So the main topic of tonight's show is online social media witchcraft groups. Like, these Facebook groups and Discords and, what else do people use now? I don't know. Is there anything else? Those are the only ones I know.
Discord is really popular. I see stuff popping up on there all the time.
Well, something that I have found for the entirety of the life cycle of Facebook so far, especially in these initiatory groups, is especially among initiatory groups, is that they're very mean. Like if you go on there, first of all, as Tracy and Deborah know, there aren't enough people these days seeking out initiatory craft. Sometimes that's a good thing, maybe, but but a lot of these people out there in the social media world will say Gerald Gardner was a right-wing pedophile colonizer and all these other untrue things. And, so the narrative against us, that Wicca is cultural appropriation and we've taken everything from Native American smudging, I don't know where, I know you Long Islanders have 400 more pages in your book, but, and I know we can't really tell people what's in it, but, I suppose it's safe to say we don't have white sage in there. So, or any kind of sage. They've mistaken who initiatory witches are. And, so there's that narrative all over the place. And so it's hard enough for us to get people interested in this corner of the craft to not have to have a scenario where you join, such and such for seekers and initiates, and you ask a question like, is there anybody near, Duluth, Iowa that, I can get initiated, and everybody jumps down their throat.
Yep. I just saw it. Happen last week. It was pathetic.
And I saw
calling yourself, seekers and initiates, and then people that are what you were back in the day are coming to find their way, and you're treating them like they're beneath you. And I know that's a thing, but it's horrible. How do you get people interested in the Gardnerian tradition if you go to a page for Gardnerian seekers and you treat them like, well, you don't belong here. Maybe you should find something else.
Well, I mean, I know how I would feel. I mean, my husband made me believe in the power of initiatory craft. I was the voice against it for 30 years, really. I was against it, and I made fun of it. And it becomes, it's a challenge. Well, this is another challenge, transportation. It's like, this is the other thing that, there are already so few of us in terms of covens that are training. Because most of these whores online that go on and on about, the ones that Tracy's, how many of them actually have covens? The ones that are jumping down everybody's throat. Most of those people don't even have a coven. The loudmouths that have so much to say. They're not even doing the work, but they have so much to say.
I didn't go on one of those groups. I didn't even know those groups existed when I first started seeking a coven. But if I had, and I went on there, that would have completely turned me off to the Gardnerian tradition. Not that a bunch of stuff hasn't already, but in general, if I had been a seeker and saw something like that or got a response like that, it would have been like, okay, I'm done. No, this is not for me.
Well, then I'm also at the other end of the spectrum. And in this case, the word's probably really apropos, because half the people on there claim to be on. Have you ever noticed that these internet maladies always come in groups? Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it. I know I'm going to get in trouble, but it almost always comes with the term non-binary. Like, I'm non-binary, plus I have multiple personality disorder, or no, dissociative identity disorder, plus I have anxiety, plus I have fibromyalgia, plus, there's this like string of maladies. You're all looking at me like, oh God, he's going there. Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong. Yeah.
I guess my point of view is I don't understand why, if that is what they're suffering from, or if that is what they believe, why does all that have to be brought forward? What does that have to do
with witchcraft? I have no idea. Well, I've always wanted to understand, especially since, like, literally, I remember that Witches Without Cultural Appropriation Facebook group that, like, blasted us particularly, but basically all forms of Wicca and, initiatory craft. And, like, I would say 20% of the people that I would see post in there would eventually say they had dissociative identity disorder. And so the question became to me twofold. One, if you are planning to medically transition, who gets the choice? If you're Sybil and you have 16 personalities and one of them wants to cut your dick off, what if the other 15 don't? You know what I mean? And what if Peggy, wasn't that one of Sybil Dorset's altars? If it was Peggy,
yeah, it was.
What if Peggy wanted to get initiated and the other 15 didn't?
Sure.
You know, if somehow Peggy's thoughts bleed off into Joan's thoughts, is that oath breaking? You know, like if Peggy goes to circle and she's been initiated, and suddenly, see, I ask these kind of questions. So Peggy, you know, suddenly, you know, Joanne's altar takes over. Well, what if she accidentally gets some of Peggy's thoughts bleeding over? I mean, is that oath breaking? And how do you initiate someone with dissociative identity disorder? I mean, is that something that you would say, well, maybe we don't want to, because if Peggy tells the rest of the altars, she's now broken her oaths. What if Margaret finds the book, you know?
Yeah, one of the things that we ask is that, you know, we in our questionnaire, because we have an application, and it says, you know, anxiety and depression are very common mental illnesses. Do you have any other serious mental illnesses that would interfere with your practicing in a group setting or in this kind of Gardnerian tradition? We need to know that. We need to know that we're safe and you're safe. So far,
well, you don't want to bring somebody into a circle. You know, you get Sybil into the circle.
I knew he was going to go there.
And suddenly Barbara comes out. People who need people. You know, great, but not appropriate for the moment. You know what I mean? So maybe you don't want that. You know, I mean, I do think that there are, you know, even depression. I mean, I'm on Lexapro. And, you know, if I weren't, you know, what would I like? I mean, look how I am like to be around now. Take the pills away. It's like, Jesus. You never know. Yeah, you know, I'm naturally fucked up enough. But I feel like, never mind just the initiatory aspect of this, but you know, these groups, like even Witchcraft for Beginners, which if you haven't seen this train wreck, it's got like almost 100, you know, it's got almost 1 million people in it. It's like 800,000 something. And, you know, the other day somebody posted, here's a picture of my ritual space, share yours. And I'm looking at the picture, and it was the end of a bed and the floor in front of the bed, and there was a blanket folded in, you know, 4, so it was just a small square of a blanket with a laptop with a pentacle on the screen and a space heater. There were no ritual tools that I could see. You know, there was, you know, nothing I could discern. Like, first of all, what are you showing? I mean, you can see Brian when he lives in New Orleans, you can see my altar of the dead in the background, but he's not closing up on it, you know, and if I do a class on altars, I'll show that altar, but I don't have any active spells on it when I do.
Right.
You know, I don't show my magic. I don't show the secret things. I'm in an Alexandrian temple at the moment, and the only thing you're seeing is this painting. You know what I mean? We don't show those things, you know, and it's very strange to me. And then, of course, you know, the people will post on there, and the constant battle is, witchcraft is political. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And then, you know, they get into this fight of politics, which just, you know, first of all, and I'll briefly say this because I don't want to be that political with the show, but yes, witchcraft is political in the sense that if you look back at, you know, Leland's Aradia, you know, until all of our oppressors are dead, you know, but then they tell us to be silent. You know what I mean? We're supposed to challenge oppressors, but, you know, secretly with our magic, not like out on the street. And more importantly, I would ask you, who do you think the Santaros of Cuba, the Buddhists of Tibet, and the witches of Romania are all doing their magic against? Left-wing oppression. It does happen. Stalin, you know, for every Hitler, there's a Stalin. For every, you know, Mussolini, there's a Pol Pot. You know, oppression takes many forms. So while witchcraft may be political, it's certainly not inherently left. It's inherently whatever speaks against oppression. Maybe one, maybe the other, maybe something totally different.
That's geographical, it's regional. We're not all in the same place, and it's going to look different depending upon your own personal situation.
Right. you know. So some of the truths, I know that there's the kerfuffle this week that's really pissed me off is I've been hearing from people left and right about this BTW Discord. And I think they use the word Wicca, by the way. I hate the word Wicca more as an initiate than I hated it before I was an initiate. Like I thought when I become initiated, I'm going to have to embrace the word Wicca, I'm sure, because, you know, and I'll understand why when I'm initiated. No, I understand even less why post-initiation than pre-initiation, why these people have adopted that word, because Gardner certainly didn't use it, and Maxine and Alex only really used it when they were at the pub and didn't want people to know what they were talking about, and that's coming directly from Maxine. So this BTW Discord has been just really excluding people left and right. They wouldn't let Levi Rowland, who is, you know, the high priest of the Pontchartrain Coven, they wouldn't let him on because he knew us. They wouldn't let Johnny Baracco on, who's in G. Marie's Coven, you know, one of these Cathonioid carnival shows, because Johnny was engaged to somebody that knew us. And this Johnny doesn't even like us, but he still wasn't allowed in. Like a hater of ours was not allowed in because of a remote connection to us. And my favorite thing about this group, so I helped to host the Alexandrian Grand Sabbath in Cornwall last year. It was me, Maxine, Sharon Day, my husband. Sharon and I handled all logistics, like, you know, the venue, the food, and all of that. And Brian and Maxine did ritual, you know, things. And it was one of the most amazing, kind, gracious people. Like, you couldn't have been at a better event. And we required one vouch. And for those that don't know, vouching is, you know, before, say, we sell you one of these Alexandrian ankhs here, or ankh, as Brian likes it, is before you can buy that from us, you have to get a vouch. Someone who says, oh, that person is a correct, proper Alexandrian, you know, what have you. We required one of these vouchers for the Grand Sabbath. To get on this Discord, you had to have 3. So you have to have 1 vouch to practice, but 3 to talk about it. Is this how, I know we can't talk about what happens at these gatherings, but when you go to a Gardnerian gather, how many vouchers do you have to have?
1, right? I mean, as long as you have
yours? Well, you hosted one, Deborah. How many did you require?
I knew everyone.
Oh, but if you didn't?
I would at least need to speak to their high priestess.
Right.
Well, that makes sense, especially if they're first degrees. You know what I mean? Like that was something that we required. Like if you were coming to the Grand Sabbath and you weren't a first degree, we needed to know, you know, who the priesthood involved. I mean, if you weren't third degree, you know, because we're kind of in Temple of the Mother. I mean, our covens are pretty strict about this as far as, you know, we don't join all those groups. You know what I mean? Because it pollutes the training. You know, I'm first degree, so I'm not on any of these initiatory groups. And even if I were third degree, I don't know that I would join most of them, if they'd even let me on, because of how these people behave. Like, I find it abhorrent. I can't imagine I'm going to get any potential initiates into a coven from a group where all they do is treat people badly. I mean, what's your, Deborah, I'm sort of overtaking everything. So what has been your take with this kind of thing?
I tried to get into a Discord recently for W, and I need 3 vouchers, which I provided. But then I did get a message from a moderator bringing up an incident from 2017. I think that was the year. I'm a little foggy on the year. I think it was 2017. Yeah, so apparently I did something. I asked the person, I said, you have me at a disadvantage. You know who I am. I don't know who you are. So they gave me their first magical name. And I said, have we met? And I don't know if they ever responded. I just know when I went on Discord the next day, I was no longer in that. So
part of the problem with these magical names that these people use publicly, because I would never use my magical name publicly. You will never know my magical name unless you stand in a circle with me. And even then, if I have a 3rd degree magical name, the firsts you won't know my name. But if you're gonna use your magical name publicly, can you not all use
the same
Raven,
one?
Hermes, Daedalus, so whatever. It's like there's like 10 of these names they all tend to pass around, so you don't know who the fuck you're talking to. Like in this group, you need magical last names, just so it can be like.
I didn't know who I was talking to. I had no idea. All I know is I had never met that person, and they formed a judgment on me and decided I was worthy to be in that Discord.
There are two people that what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought. I'm just like sort of fried tonight.
Well, let me while you're thinking about that, let me build off of what Deborah was just saying. So, okay, you didn't even understand who you were talking to. You're obviously in the community, and you didn't even know who you were talking to. You have no idea of yourself verifying who this is. And that's where my problem lies. Like, how do we even know this person is really who they say they are? That they've just not decided, like, oh, this is my Discord group, and I'm going to pretend I'm this, and I'm going to get.
All right, where's their vouchers? Why don't they have to give you a voucher to prove their group is valid? I mean, how do you know? I mean, that's a valid. I'm glad she said that, because Deborah, how do you know the group you're joining? I mean, I get you probably know some of the people in it, but how do you people joining this group know that the person running it is actually credible? You could all be joining this group and sharing initiatory information with someone that's not credible.
That's
true. It could be an 18-year-old in your mother's basement.
I'm glad you raised that point. I'm just lowering this air conditioner in here because I'm starting to feel like I'm in a refrigerator. No, I think that's very valid. So I'm going to bring something up on the screen that sort of relates to this reason that Deborah was excluded. And it's how I met Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to go along with, hold on, I can never remember. Most people don't know this, but Linda Lavin, God, do I miss her? She was just such a queen of 70s television. You can turn, oh no, that's Mary Tyler Moore. You can turn.
Yeah, you're singing Mary.
Oh, no. Easy to rise, easy to bed, cooked and cleaned and it went out of my head. Kicking myself for nothing was my favorite sport. Had to get out from under, 'cause life's too short. There's a new girl in town and she's looking good. There's a fresh, freckled face in the neighborhood. Anyway, Alice, the show Alice. So, what could go wrong? Yeah, I'll take that off the screen. I'm sure we're all going to be hearing about that. Where's that? Oh, there it is. Hold on. We can take it off. God, she's, I mean, I can't say that much. I can say that you can only fit so much in a circle. So I don't know how she has a coven. There's a new girl in town. So nobody was cheesier than Linda Lavin, but I just do love her. And Adrienne Barbeau, she's another queen of the 70s, whose name I just like, if you say it over and over, Adrienne Barbeau, you just want to keep saying it. Like she's just the first no bra on American television. So anyway, when I met Tracy on, I think it was Brian's
yes, initiation. It's on Brian's page.
witchcraft group, the path of it, Alexandrian and Gardnerian witchcraft, the path of initiation, I think it's what it's called. But I was being a real cunt, so I thought you were very patient with me. You're very kind. We had a conversation. You and I hit it off really, really well.
That's a lie. We didn't have a conversation. I went in there like gangbusters, and I started insulting Brian and insulting Christian.
I don't remember this at all. Really?
Yes. And I am not that person. I went over there because I was told, oh, look at what they're saying about Deborah, or Deborah said to me, look what they're saying on this page. And I knew of Brian and Christian, but I didn't know, like, I was part of that page and I'd never visited it. I never was on that page. So I went over to the page and I saw it. And, protect and defend. So there I was arguing with Christian and Brian. And then I felt bad because, something that's not me. I'm not the type of person that goes over and insults people. And even though I was defending Deborah.
Bad is that I don't even remember the insults. I just remember you being nice.
Well, after that, I was like, then Christian and I started talking and I liked him a lot and we became friends. And it was like the way I am is like, you could tell me you don't like
just
something.
Broke. You're breaking up.
That's weird.
Now you're here.
You could tell me you don't like somebody and that's fine. But I don't
like anybody.
Me neither. I don't take that as like the gospel. I have to get to know them first because you cannot be enamored with everyone. So I like to get to know someone before I don't like them. And I liked Christian a lot. And then I got to know Brian and I like Brian. I love Brian. I'm going to
so you just like me, but you love Brian.
I love you, but I'm going to steal Brian away from you. So anyway, so I felt bad about it. I really felt bad that I went over there and, I understood the reason behind it. But after I got to be friends with Christian, it was different. I felt like I could maybe mediate between Deborah and their group and Christian. And that didn't work out well for me because then I started being blamed for everything, Then it started to be, well, you told Christian this and you were the one who did this. And I was like, that was long after the page I came in on, I didn't even know Christian and Brian then. So there's no way I could have said anything. Then Deborah got blamed.
First of all, we met. We met because of said picture. Hold on one second. Give me just a moment. Because I just want to make sure, because it wasn't showing up properly. So I just want to make sure I got this proper. So we met, and I explained this, by the way, to Melissa Payne, who, the nickname there was Mel's Diner, hence why I have this Mel here from Mel's Diner with the tits here, because if I'm gonna go and I'm gonna play squeeze the titty, I'm gonna fully squeeze. So there you go. It's like full size now. So I met you coming onto Brian's page and protesting this picture. Which means the thing that led to me making this picture, you could not have been the source of. Because I didn't know you. So so it wasn't just that they were being unnecessarily mean to you. They were also possibly extremely stupid. Though I'm going to make the case for the fact that I don't think that they're that stupid, because you would have to be, and thank you, South Park, for giving me this word back, you would have to be completely retarded. Deborah Lipp and Melissa Payne would have to be complete rereads to not immediately realize we just sent Tracy to go complain to Christian and Brian about this picture they made based on information they received. Well, how could they not then in their head go, well, they didn't know Tracy. How could she be the source?
But
They're
wait.
smart enough. My point is, they're smart enough to know that, which means they were being unnecessarily mean to you on purpose.
Okay, but it wasn't really them. Okay, it wasn't really them. It was other people that were saying,
like Mario Pabon and
yeah, Pabon, and they were trying to figure out who it was who spilled the beans and the whole picture thing, and I'm like, me, how does that make even sense? The timeline is not correct. Then they were blaming Deborah, and I'm like, nope, it wasn't her. I'm telling you, it wasn't her. They didn't want. They wanted.
Well, yes and no. I'm gonna release the Kraken now. Now
Yes,
we're taking
release
the
that Kraken.
Kraken is coming out. This thing, like, it was like Oprah Winfrey coming out and saying, "You told Christian Day. You told Christian Day. No, you told Christian Day." There were almost as many people that were guilty of telling me this particular thing at the Gardnerian Gather as there are people that Elohim Lifar has accused of being author Cressida Stone, because every other week Elohim would go, "Judica is Cressida Stone. Andrew Chestnut is Cressida Stone," and not a one of the people he accused of being Cressida Stone was actually Cressida Stone. You get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. So here's what really, so I can't really say what happened at this Gardnerian Gather, because even though I'm not Gardnerian, it is initiatory and I'd be breaking oaths. What I will say is that I get this call from Tim Reagan, the co-owner of Pentagram. Now, at the time, I was the secret initiate. So for Tim Reagan to give me information about what takes place at a Gardnerian Gather, even though technically speaking, I'm an initiate, in his, he was essentially oath breaking, because he's telling me initiatory things thinking I'm not one, because he didn't know I secretly was one. And so Tim gives me the information about stuff that happened at this gather, how certain people walked out, and first of all, I think Tim is an incurable pathological liar. I don't really think half the lies he tells on purpose, but he absolutely gave me this information as though it was sacrosanct, and then later said, "Oh, well, I got some of it wrong." Well, you didn't tell me. You know what I mean? Like, as I said to you earlier, Shannon, on the phone, I take information that I get very seriously, because if I pass it on, I want that information to be accurate. So after getting this information, Deborah Landau got blamed for bringing it to me. You got blamed for bringing it to me. Neil Hartnett / Nicholas Hawthorne / Hearn got blamed for bringing it to me, which is really amusing, because when I first targeted Deborah Lip with that graphic, early to bed, early to rise, cooked and clean. When I first targeted her with that graphic, my reason I didn't care about what went on at this Gardnerian Gather. But about 11 some odd years ago, I think it was, people were accusing Dorothy Morrison of being racist, and then, which she wasn't being. And then when I defended her, this Reed Wildermuth weirdo called me a racist, and there was Deborah Lip on the thread, and Jason Mankey and all the, eventually Jason Mankey and I became friends. But as Brian said to me recently, started out as a hater. You shouldn't be surprised he ended up with one. But Deborah was on there chiming in with the racist thing. Well, if you know me at all, I'm very forgiving if you come and you make things right and do the right thing. But I'm just, hold on. I put this on Do Not Disturb. I don't know why it's not. I don't even know what to do. I'm just going to turn the volume down, since I think Pink automatically gets cheaper. So anyway, you know, I'll always forgive you if you do the right thing, unless you're completely crazy like Nutless Wonder or, you know, Bruno there. But, you know, if you're a cunt to me, I'm going to be a cunt to you. And I'm always going to be a bigger cunt because I'm better at it. So, you know, if you came for me and you didn't like the response, well, you should have realized that proportion isn't exactly an expertise of mine. You know, I will literally blow out who did you say? Was it 100? What did you say earlier? Somebody said it was 100 something.
She said I said $10,000.
$10,000 to prove $100 point.
Oh yeah, totally. That's totally me. I'm definitely non-proportionate. But if you know that, and you still fuck around, well, shame on you. You're the moron. If you know that I'm going to pull out a bazooka to your little cap gun, you already knew. Now you're going to whine about it when you already knew. So anyway, when Deborah jumped,
I told them that. I said, and I told them that. I said, you know, you can't come at somebody and expect them not to respond. That's foolish of you. You have to take some responsibility for your actions.
well, Deborah and Melissa are very used to having everyone on their side, because when they get together, the force of gravity alone is enough to pull everybody into the room. So anyway, once she called me a racist, I'd had it out for her. So when Tim brought this information to me, naturally I exploited it. And so I posted this thing on my wall, and there's Neil Hartnett saying, "That's my witch queen. Why are you attacking her? Blah, blah, blah." And at the time he worked for us at Omen. So I called him and he's going on and on, "Oh, she's my witch queen," which was the worst mistake he ever could have made. Because once he did that, I said to myself, oh, now I have the weapon. That cunt called me a racist. I'm going to destroy her relationship with Neil. I'm going to destroy it. I didn't even pull punches. I've told Melissa Payne privately in messages. I said, I set about to do this on purpose. Once I realized that Neil didn't like the way your coven was playing with gender roles, every time I see you playing with the gender role, there I am in Neil's messages. Did you see this? Did you see this? I absolutely manipulated and exploited it. And I think I told both of you back then when I was doing it, I said I was doing it and I did it on purpose and I don't regret it. You called me a fucking racist. You wanted to pull a cap gun at me. I pulled out a bazooka on you. So anyway, basically, you know, without getting into what happened at this ritual, because it's really not my place, there were things done that, in my opinion, absolutely violate our practice. And I do think the people that walked out should have walked out. But here's the thing again. Neil could not have been my source. If Neil had been my source, why would he be saying, why are you saying this about my witch queen? In the beginning, when I first posted that graphic, early to rise. When I first posted this graphic.
Okay, wait. Can I just say that that's a really good picture of Deborah, though? I'm going to just say that because that's like one of my favorite pictures.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was nice. She didn't look quite as chunk of monkey, but, you know, whatever. But the point is that it wasn't until I posted that picture and Neil was defending her that I decided to deep six their friendship. And once I was done absolutely destroying it into nothing but tatters, then they start blaming Neil for being my source and making graphics of him and saying, you know, here's these graphics and here's, you know, calling him an oathbreaker. Look, Deborah is probably super loyal to Neil or Nicholas, you know, as much as anyone could be. I don't care for him because, you know, he excommunicated my niece Angel. He could make that right because, you know, if you're watching this, Neil, I've known you for 40 years and you can make this right, but you have to do right by my fucking family. That's basically how that shit works. And, you know, but I will say.
Can I just say two things?
But I need to say that Neil is not an oathbreaker. Sorry.
Two things that validate this point. Your point. Firstly, Neil came to me and asked to have a northbound conversation in which he asked me specifically if Melissa and Deborah were practicing together. And I told him, not when I was with their coven. And if you have any problems or you have any concerns, you need to go to Deborah. That was number one. He said, well, this is what I heard, and I'm very upset about it. He was very emotional. And I said, listen, I can't really give you any information because as far as I know, that's not the case. Go and speak to your witch queen. She would be the one to speak to.
They do tend to change.
Secondly, I got a message from Tim saying, I don't know if you remember me, but has anyone said that I was the one who talked to Christian about what went on at the gather? And I said, no. I mean, no. First of all, I was surprised to hear from him. And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, I did speak to Christian about this. And I was like, okay, well, why isn't everybody knows who actually said something.
Wait, he said he did speak to me?
Yes.
Did he say he source?
And I probably still have the messages because
Did he say he was the source?
He didn't. He said he spoke to you. Now, I don't know if that equates to being the source, but he said he spoke.
I want to kind of go on, I don't want to take the whole show with this particular issue, but I'm going to lay this out. So basically it went like this. Thing happens at this Gardnerian ritual. Deborah walks out. David walks out. They tell Neil, who's their initiator, which was perfectly within their rights to tell Neil, yes, I could say that Deborah Lipp and Melissa Payne could feel a certain way socially that Deborah and David said something to their upline initiator. Yes, okay. Or if not initiator, I know he was upline from you somehow, or, but, there was no craft violation in them telling Nicholas. And there was no craft violation in Nicholas in turn telling Tim Reagan. There was, however, a craft violation in Tim Reagan telling someone he thought was not an initiate. So the only person, and Melissa Payne refuses to believe this. I tried to tell her this, and I literally walked her through in a private message, why would Neil have been the source if he didn't even enter this and, literally said, why are you going after my witch queen? How could it possibly be Tracy Frasche if the whole reason she met me was because of the graphic that was created after I knew the information? Mm-hmm. What makes Tim Reagan particularly disgusting to me in all this is that, like you, Deborah, he claims to be so loyal to Neil, but you have actually been loyal to Neil. Like, we've had phone conversations where, I would take a bullet for him. Like, you have shown, even though I have my issues, but you have shown loyalty to this person. Tim Reagan allowed all these initiates to run around thinking Neil was my source, made graphics calling Neil an oathbreaker. All of this was going on. And Tim could have solved it with one phone call to Deborah and said, I'm very sorry, it was me. But he let Neil and Deborah and you all take the heat for this. What kind of coward does that? I have far more issues with him than I ever will Neil. Because, I wouldn't let my worst enemy take the fall for something I did. It's not in my conscience mentally to do. So for Tim Reagan to allow Neil for years, and you, and Deborah, and whatever other people are in that Rolodex of information that, they're all trying to blame for this graphic. Kiss my grits is despicable.
It's also oath-breaking. It's oath-breaking.
Well, I mean, is it or is? See, that's the thing I'm confused about. I was a secret initiate, but he didn't know. Is it still oath breaking if you tell another initiate, but that you don't know that they are one?
He didn't know that you were an initiate, and I did. This is news to me. I didn't know that either.
Well, he was on a sex offenders list at one point for the longest time, but I think it was.
I didn't know that either.
I think it was for pissing in public, though. I don't think it was diddling or anything weird like that. I think it was just, peeing in public. They'll put you on sex offenders lists for various reasons, but oh yeah, I'm just on. I said, that's the other thing. You're gonna go after this bitch. Next year is my 40th fucking year in this carnival sideshow called the Magical Community. I know where most of the bodies are buried. I could literally take up every episode of this fucking show with, secrets that I sit on. Shannon, why is your thing so out of focus?
Oh, it is? I don't know.
Oh, there you are. You were sort of looking a little blurry there.
Okay.
Okay. Tabris Valentine said, if he didn't know you were an initiate, then as far as he was concerned, he was telling uninitiated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How do you treat that? I guess I don't know. I mean, is it technically oath breaking or is it the intent to break oaths? I don't know. Well, your high priesthood, I'm just first degree. How would you treat, if someone in your coven did that, would you see that as oath breaking?
If they didn't know that you were an initiate and they told you something that should have been oath bound, then they're breaking their oath, right?
Well, your high priesthood, I mean, it's more.
That's what I mean. I
can't hear her. Is she muted?
Don't hear me?
Oh, now I can.
I mean, I don't think that, if he didn't know, for all intents and purposes, you were just somebody in the craft that was not an initiate, and he told you something that shouldn't have gone to you, period, oath breaking. That's my opinion. And I'm sticking to
outing an initiate is oath breaking. Oh, good segue, Starfitch. I'm so glad she said that, because that just leads me into the next thing. So some of you may remember this thing has gotten tossed around quite a bit, and I never addressed it when it happened because I personally feel like even this is sort of stretching the boundaries for me a little tonight, because I generally don't like to put an initiatory business before the non-initiated or the uninitiated. So, I don't publicly join in on all these gender debates and all these other things about what initiate should or shouldn't do that are being had in front of uninitiated, because it's like none of your business. You're not initiated. If you want to be part of this, get initiated. I am doing a little bit, Angel's finally here. So I don't think it's the business of the uninitiated. I mean, we're touching a little bit because obviously we talked about the Gardnerian Gather, but we didn't get into too many details. But in 2021, this group of about 100 or so initiates got together and they put this public statement out against me that's still sitting out there somewhere. And it really isn't 100 people. It's really like a dozen high priests and their coven members that they were all like, you all gotta sign it. It's like literally there's like 8 people from this coven and 5 people from this coven and it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. Calling me an oath breaker, which of course Navi Souza has passed along in various communiques and in this Discord group that I am being called an oath breaker for outing an initiate's mundane name. But here's the thing. A lot of people don't understand the backdrop of this. That public statement was based on an individual currently named River Anodian, which it sounds like something that stops diarrhea. I don't know. It does not sound like a name I would want to call myself. But people, they get creative with their magical names. They can't. I guess if you. I don't know. If your name's not that interesting, I suppose you might want to pick something. I rather love the fact that I have this name Christian Day, especially because it is the name I was born with. And there was a devil in an old Aberdeen witch trial where the devil or / man in black, the name of that devil was Christ Sunday. So I'm not saying it means anything, but it does. So you have to sort of backtrack to 2015 when Lori Bruno made up this story that I was calling her in the middle of the night and calling her a cunt at 3 a.m, which is a complete lie. And since some of you have seen the video footage from the reality show that Lori and I filmed together with Lorelai and Leanne Marama, you will see where I say publicly in front of multiple television cameras, fuck you, Lori, this is my graveyard. No, this is my graveyard ritual, Lori, fuck off. If I'm willing to say to that woman in front of 4 different television cameras, destined for national television, this is my graveyard ritual, fuck off. If anybody still believes I would actually call this woman at 3 a.m. without it's not that I wouldn't call you a cunt. It's not going to do it anonymously. Many people on this earth have been the recipient of my particular kind of phone call, and never have they been anonymous. So I don't do anything. There's this apparently somebody's doing a Nutless Wonder Facebook page about him, and they all think it's me. And I'm like, if it was me, I would have posted this video. So then whoever runs it posted the video. And it's like, I don't do things anonymously. I come right out and I say it. So when this all happened, Darcy Velez, who's a priestess from Oregon, reached out to me because she had been Team Lori Bruno, and she reached out and she wanted to make peace with me. We made peace. Lori was so furious that Darcy reached out to me.
I love Darcy.
That she unbanished Jonathan Navi Souza, because Jonathan had been banished. I call him Suicide Souza. Jonathan, I know it's mean, but if you're gonna try to kill yourself 20 times, at some point people are gonna get sick of hearing it. Just do it. So anyway, I know I'm going to hell, but just do it. Come on. So Suicide Souza was banished by Lori Bruno for talking about her son's heroin habit. And so she banished Susan. When Darcy made peace with me, Bruno unbanished Souza because he had potential dirt I won't get into on Darcy. And so now he's back in good graces, and suddenly Souza is making all these public proclamations about this nasty comment I made 2 years before that yes, it was regrettable and mean and probably funny on some levels, but it was not my finest hour. But Souza didn't care about it for that entire 2 years, and neither did River Anodian. So River had read at my psychic fair 2 years in a row prior to this point. So when Lori Bruno unbanished Jonathan Souza and brought him in as a weapon against me and Darcy, River Anodian was his best friend, may still be, and came with him. So she didn't become some hater because of anything I said. In fact, she read for my psychic fair, I think for the 2 years after I made this regrettable comment in 2014. So if she had such a problem with the comment, why did she continue to work for me? She didn't have a problem until Lori Bruno was tickling, his balls in her clit. And so, yes, on my podcast in 2021, I said, Andrea Berman, Scarlett Magdalene, tea-addicted witch, River Anodian, or whatever she's calling herself. And yes, I know it's a they, them. And yes, I might be using the wrong pronouns. And I'm just going to say this. If you don't respect the truth of who I am, don't ever think I'm going to respect the truth of who you are. Yes, I might actually misgender you. If you call me a pagan when I say I'm not a pagan, I might call you a she when you say you're a he. Sorry, not really sorry, but no. You don't respect who I am or the truth of me, I won't respect the truth of you. So it's that fucking simple. And I can't be canceled. I think we've all proven this by now. There's nothing you can do to cancel me, and therefore, at least you know you're always getting the truth. It's completely unvarnished because I can say what I want. So I said this, and they came out with this public statement petition with all these signatures saying that I outed an initiate's, secret identity. Well, this is not true, because River Anodian used her quote-unquote mundane name, Andrea Berman, in the motherfucking Chicago Tribune in 2004. That's one of the top 10 newspapers in America. When you say, I am a Wiccan priestess, Andrea Berman, in the Chicago fucking Tribune, you no longer get to claim it's mundane. That would be like saying Janet Farrar is a mundane. How dare you name Janet Farrar as an initiate? Fuck off with that.
Okay, that's a good point, because I had a whole article about me in New Jersey that I had no idea that they were going to do this, but they posted this whole article about me. Says Tracy Fraschi, Wiccan witch, and it came out in our local newspaper. I never thought of it as being like, okay, at that point, if somebody used my mundane name, they could claim that I was doxxed or whatever, or I was outed.
Well, no. Hello, she read at my psychic fair for 2 years in a row with the name Andrea Berman.
Well,
Which you don't get to claim that as a mundane name. And if people think that, then they're just picking and choosing and being selectively outraged. And frankly, at the time, Brian thought everybody that signed that letter was an oath breaker. And I will say I probably shouldn't say it. She might be mad at me, but it was the only time I've ever heard Maxine swear in the nearly 20 years I've known her. She did not like that public statement. Not really. It wasn't about, I'm sure nobody liked that it went after me, but she didn't like it because it put our business out there to people whose business it isn't. Mm-hmm. Like, how is it Amandarella Moon's business, and these other losers, did the article say she was specifically a BTW high priestess? No, but what difference does it make? The fact is, she put herself out there as a Wiccan priestess. I mean, in our circles, we understand that as an initiate. However, that's just splitting hairs, really. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, she puts herself out there as a Chthonioi priestess. She has publicly tied herself to this. And frankly, I don't think the Chthoniois are real. So if I'm really being nitpicky and douchey, even if I did out her mundane name, it wouldn't be oath-breaking because the Chthoniois are not real. They are not Alexandrian. They are not real.
The other thing is they said that you guys were oath breaking because you were using the craft to make money, which is ridiculous to me, because if anybody writes a book on the craft and they're making money off that book, even though I know authors don't make that much money, aren't they also oath breaking? Or is there some different kind of oath breaking that is involved with, writing books and, having...
You don't even have to go there, because here's the other thing. If you look at that Witchcraft for Beginners group with its 800,000 people, 99.99999% of those practitioners not only despise initiatory Wicca, they despise every form of Wicca. They despise the Cunningham neo-Wicca. To give you, as Lorelei used to say to me years ago, Christian, they don't care about high priestess. They just want to meet a Salem witch. I never needed, like these people that said, after 30 years, he got initiated because he wanted credibility. I am at the top of the witchcraft economic food chain. And I was at the top of the witchcraft economic food chain long before I was initiated. My initiation into Alexandrian craft had nothing to do with money. My husband, like I always say, I'm the Ayatollah and he's the Ayatollah. My husband was a religious fanatic when I met him. It had nothing to do with money. That was always his thing. I'm probably never going to be quite as hardcore as he is, but for me, Alexandrian witchcraft is my personal practice. It is my private, like my niece is my high priestess. I told her, this is the first time in, you have 39 years on this earth or whatever, you've had any authority over me, enjoy it. So, like I'm the first degree to my niece. Like I have prostrated myself and said, okay, in this corner of the universe, magically, I am, down here at the bottom of the totem pole. So, like, my money does not come from my initiatory credibility in any way, shape, or form. And I might even argue it hurts me.
I know Brian, and that would never happen. It would not.
It hurts. First of all, every time I tout this initiatory stuff, I have customers that probably sit there wondering why I waste my, witchcraft is all about casting spells. And that is the majority of witches out there now that believe this or, have that mindset of it's all just casting spells. That is the majority of my practitioner customers. And on top of that, like I would say fewer than 15 to 20% max of my customer base are actual practitioners of any kind. And the majority of that 15 to 20% are not any form of initiate. Mm-hmm. And the remaining 80 to 85% are not witches at all. They're muggles seeking magic. They might cast a spell here and there, but they're not practitioners. They like want a new job or they want to get a reading. So this is why they've never been able to cancel me. But so if you break down, okay, my 15 to 20% practitioners, and now figure out who among those people are initiates, you're looking at such a small number that they don't even factor into my marketing plan. If they do sometimes factor into my product lines because I say to myself, well, I want initiates to be able to buy things. And for example, Alexandrians, not all of them, but a lot of Alexandrians wear white robes. So I had Shannon design a white robe, and which I've got to get some. But like how many people are ever going to go into my fucking store in Salem and buy a white robe? Practically nobody. So yes, there are times where I will make things to cater to those initiates because I am one. But if anybody thinks that's my fucking financial bottom line, they're a moron. They really are. They just really are a moron. And so this, after, that petition comes out, and then there's this one podcaster, David Wood? No, James Wood, kind of like James Woods, the actor, but James Wood. So he does a podcast with that awful G. Marie, who was one of the people that signed it. She was one of the elders of the Sheaves of Demeter coven because she was too cowardly to put her name. So she just put herself under the elders of the Sheaves of Demeter coven. And so this thing comes out, there's all these people on it. I reached out to James Wood because he does this podcast with G. Marie, that ghastly Josie Winter from Australia, and somebody else I can't remember, because they all come and go. They sort of blur together. And James Wood said that he signed it like everybody else did because, they thought I was wrong, but none of them knew what I'd done. I said, did you ever get any evidence? And he goes, no. I said, you need to go and research this. So James Wood went and researched this, realized I was telling the truth, and that, I get you could split hairs, like Star did ask, did she say she was a BTW high priest? I get if you really want to get nitpicky, but at the end of the day, she's a witch. It's like outing somebody as an initiate versus a witch isn't going to make, the reason we have those oath-breaking laws it isn't just about initiation. It's about protecting witches from a culture that looks down on witches. So, okay, I get you could maybe split hairs, but the reality is I didn't out her mundane name, and James and his wife, we still don't like each other, but they took their names off of this petition. The best part about this public statement that I saw, here I am, lowly first degree Alexandrian. I'm the one being scorned by this petition. I'm the one being ridiculed by this public statement. I'm the one being attacked. I'm the one that they're saying, we shall shun him. We won't have him at any Gardnerian or Alexandrian gatherers. First of all, banning me from a Gardnerian gatherer, and we have a woman that, Deborah here ran one. That's like banning me from the Mormons. I'm not a Mormon. I'm not a Gardnerian. Why would I mean, it'd be fun. I'd certainly love to circle with both of you, but, I'm not a Gardnerian. So banning me from this is kind of retarded. But the funniest part is that, on the surface, they have painted me as this pariah, when all it took was a few well-placed phone calls. I know I talked to you, Deborah. I know I talked to you, Tracy. I know I talked to Angela. There were a few others I talked to. And all I said to them was, the great sin of this public statement is not that they're attacking me. It's that they've put the Cassonioi Alexandrians on the same footing with legitimate Alexandrians and Gardnerians. And they are known for their, same-sex initiation practices and things that are just very heretical to actual craft. Well, wouldn't you know, within 2 fucking weeks, all mention of Cassonioi was taken off of that statement, because Vinny and all these other people they all had Cassonioi on there. If they were Cassonioi, it was listed. So little old first degree pariah me makes a few little fucking fingers do the walking on the phone, and suddenly the whole statement is changed. That's real power. That's basically what, if you see this thing being tossed around.
I saw it was stupid.
It's just so ridiculous. I never addressed it before now publicly in this way, because I just didn't want to give the idea that it had any power.
I think they actually said they were trying to ban you from the pagan community, which was, I thought, really.
Well, it was that. I remember the time Peter Dybing, who used to be on the board of directors of Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans nationally, he did a change.org position to ban me from the pagan community. And I don't call myself a pagan. I hate the word. So I sent a bunch of my friends on there to sign it. And so about 98% of what I could remember of the signatures were actually friends of mine going, Team Warlock, he's not a pagan anyway. So I actually sent people to sign that petition because, why not?
I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
It's all very ineffectual. I mean, look at, Deborah Lipp with her, what was it? Melissa Payne said to you that, if you kept friendship with me, you were going to suffer social consequences.
Best fucking social consequences. Can I say fuck? Best fucking social consequences ever. First of all, I love you and Brian.
You don't miss Mario Pabon?
Pabon or no?
I mean, I will say I was a little sad, like that Alex Gagne I really liked, but they bullied him out of Brian's show. So, I was like, well, whatevs. And then I kind of got mad at him because of, what Mario Pabon was saying, and I probably shouldn't have taken it out on him, but, whatever.
Well, what I did say was that maybe you should go and join the New Orleans Coven. Guess what? I would love to join the New Orleans Coven. I would love for Brian to train me and join the New Orleans Coven. So there, Mario.
Now, let me ask you both something. Both of you have come to me at various times in the past, well, not I think once each, to talk about your interest in Alexandrian craft. What did I say to you? Did I try to convince you? Did I try to convince you to become Alexandrian? Or if I recall correctly, I said, you should stay Gardnerian and take it.
No, but what you did say to me was when I came to you, when all this was going on and I was dealing with all the social consequences, and I came to you and I said, I'm going to leave the Gardnerian tradition. You said to me, why would you leave a tradition you'd love just because of these people? And that's why I didn't leave, because of what you said to me.
I would
And
never let people take something I love away
And
from me.
Deborah
I would
even said to
simply
me,
make it
"Why
look better than they ever made it look.
Deborah said to me, why didn't you come to me when you were feeling that way? Well, I'm sorry, but you knew this was going on. And as your initiate, you weren't standing. So I went to somebody that I felt like I trusted, and that was a friend, and that was Christian.
Exactly. Same, Tracy.
Well, they didn't, first of all, she didn't lift a finger for, if she had any spiritual responsibility or accountability for the fact that you were both her downline, you'd think she would have at least have been invested in that, the spiritual, magical link
Right.
of all of this. That, it takes a lot for my husband to abandon his initiates. I mean, I don't know
Right.
that we ever really do. I think everybody has some road home. But, it's once you have built this magical link with someone, it's very hard to break, So I feel in this instance that, Deborah and Melissa both were acting more from social motivations than actual magical ones.
And I don't know if it was, I wouldn't personally, I've had conversations with Deborah in the interim, maybe a few years ago, but Deborah had said to me that she is proud of me as her initiate. And that says a lot. That means a lot to me because she's the person who initiated me. It wasn't.
Well, not technically her, but yeah.
No, I love my high priest. I could tell you that. I love him. He's, all I can say is that I love him. And that didn't work out well for him, but I love him. But I will say that it wasn't Deborah, but there was a lot of crap going on that through the back channels that was perpetuated. And it wasn't perpetuated by Deborah per se, but I would have expected her, as I would do with my own initiates, if anybody was coming at them unjustly, I'd be in their face and saying, this is my initiate. I don't care if you disagree with whatever they're saying or who they're friends with, whatever. Leave them alone. Period.
I told you both today on the phone. I said, if Deborah called me, I'd pick up the phone. The only ones I don't deal with are crazy.
Right.
Nutless Wonder or, Lori Bruno or Ed Hubbard or, one of these people. I'm not going to deal with them because they've already proven their insanity and therefore they cannot be rationalized or reasoned with. But that is a very tiny minority of people that, I just wouldn't pick up the phone. Most people I would, but they have to, it's like my thing with Neil. If he made things right with Angel, I've known him 40 years, all things are forgiven. Same with Tim and Leanne. And I told Tim, so he said to me at Evil not that long ago, oh, I sent somebody to your store for Oracle cards. And I said, well, I wish I could reciprocate, but I can't. I said, I appreciate the camaraderie in business, but family's fucking family. The moment these people looked at my niece and thought, oh, I can attack her because she's part of Christian's, world.
Right.
That is a grave mistake to make with me. It is a great, and frankly, I've known 3 generations of these women. So if people think I know how to, get even, my niece is on another fucking level.
Well,
so
line has interest in this gather, and I guarantee you that they won't let them go. And they're completely neutral. They don't even know the people we're talking about tonight. Okay.
Most people don't. Do you know something? I just posted when I posted all this on my wall, people were like, I don't know any of these people. I linked to that video about a certain singer and it got like 4,300 views and most of them don't even know who she is. They thought it was funny because we all know somebody like that. But most of these people we're talking about, because I kind of, a lot of my fans come from like TV appearances and things. They don't know who Gerald Gardner is, never mind. You know what I mean? Like they don't know who most of these people I talk about are. It does make it hard sometimes with this podcast because, I have these, I'm like not quite on Lori Cabot level, nowhere near it, but a lot of the people, Lori Cabot's a gateway drug. A lot of people come through her. They don't know any of this other, they know her and they know her people. They don't know anybody else in any of this.
But my point they're innocent and they deserve a chance to go if they want to go,
Right.
and let them meet these people. And because unlike them, who tells people what to think, and oh, she's an awful person, tell you
Right.
all the things that she did. Let them go to this gather and meet these people and form their own opinions. I've never said about Deborah and Melissa to my downline.
Right.
I think she and I would be like, there's something about Melissa Payne that's very spicy that sort of says to me, I think she and I would probably have been terribly mischievous friends in other circumstances.
And honestly, the reason why I even put myself in the middle of this and tried to mediate between you guys is because I could see that there would be, like, I could see you guys under different circumstances being friends, or I wouldn't have put myself in that situation. But
Well, the fact that they thought I was like, you don't even know me, and I am the only racist in America that believes in DEI, affirmative action, and even reparations for slavery. So I would like to know how I'm getting into the local chapter of the KKK with those particular credentials.
Listen, I've known you for a long time now, and I've never, ever, and I'll say this right out, I have never heard you ever say anything racist about anybody, even joking about anything. And you know me, and you joke about a lot of things. No, I have never heard you say anything like that, ever. So I know that's bullshit.
Yeah, I don't get the racist.
Yeah, well, because it's an easy thing to throw out there. It's one of those things you throw it out there, and they just, think it. Yeah, but here's the interesting footnote to that, because one of the reasons you're all having problems with this BTW Discord is I'm pretty sure it's run by, or at least run in part by, the author Oracle Hecateos, who's also Luis Valadez, and he uses both names interchangeably, so I'm not outing anything. And he's I think he's Alexandrian. He may be Chthonian. I'm not really sure. And I know he's also Minoan. Don't even get me started on that. I have the Minoan book, and there's an orgy in every bite. I'd always thought it was a circle jerk, but now I know it is. Like, literally, that you have to have an orgy at every ritual. It's in this fucking book. And I'm not betraying any oaths because I'm not Minoan. And while there's, in the book, there's things about that book that I think would very much upset Gardnerians. But I will say that there are things that would very much upset Gardnerians. But I have their book. Again, I get my hands on anything I really want. But not that I want it that much, but I like to get the dirt. But the irony of that, or the interesting thing about that public statement from 2021, with all these Gardnerians and Alexandrians saying, "We will not circle. He is shunned from the community. We will not allow. We will not stand in a circle. We will not stand in ritual. We won't be this. We won't that." Yet, when I am one of the 4 people organizing the Grand Sabbath in Cornwall last year, wouldn't you know that G. Marie, one of the signers of the statement, "I'll never stand in circle with that Christian day," applied to go to the Grand Sabbath. So if you can get a scone with some clotted cream and tea with Maxine Sanders, you're going to violate your principles. I will give most of the people that signed that statement credit. Very few of them tried to get in. But the fact that anyone did, like, you're going to sign this thing, and, and of course, G. Marie didn't just sign it. She told people that were trying to be initiated into the Salem Covenant, "Oh, did you see this public statement?" Trying to disparage Brian and me, and make this big proclamation. So G sent this public statement around as a matter of truth that no one should stand in a circle with me. But she was willing to violate all that for some tea with Maxine. Mm-hmm. What does that say about her? And she's one of but she's one of the people involved in this BTW Discord, where Jonathan Sousa's on there, Navi Souza. Sorry, I'm dead naming him. Oh, can I just say that was the real issue in that, the undertone of that public statement from 2021. They weren't mad that I outed an initiate's mundane name. They were mad that I, quote unquote, dead named her. Well, whatever your politics are, that's not our book. That's not our liturgy. I can't say what's in the book, but I can at least say, well, I think we know this, that dead naming isn't in there. You can dead name the trans people. Like, give me a break. First of all, River Anodian is not trans. River Anodian started her shtick as an asexual because she, when these chubby goth girls, no, I'm going to say it. These chubby goth girls, they suddenly come along and go, I want to be, I don't, first of all, cisgendered women are already still, and I will die on this hill if I die on any. Cisgendered women remain the most persecuted class on the entire planet. I will die on this hill. So you already got enough persecution going on that you don't need to grab at us LGBTQ just to have a little extra umbrella. I'm going to be part of the LGBT. So River comes out and she's asexual. Look, I got nothing wrong with asexual people, but don't act like you're persecuted the same as a couple of lesbians in a parking lot getting beat up for making out, or George Michael getting married, arrested for fucking in a bathroom. Or your struggle is not the same. No. Asexuals are not a persecuted class. The last time spinsters were persecuted was during the Salem witch trials. I don't want to hear about it. Your struggle is not the same. And once she realized she wasn't getting enough cred for that struggle, suddenly, I'm non-binary. That's the easiest. Why is it a chubby goth girl with a dude bro boyfriend, and she uses, they, them pronouns, on social media, but when she's hanging out with the metalheads, she's suddenly a she again. No, fuck off with that noise. I'm sorry. Fuck off with that noise. Fuck off with that noise. I'm just going to say it. I don't care. It's the truth. So G. Marie is, connected to this Navi Souza, who's on this Discord, saying that Maxine Sanders and Sharon Day are my puppets.
Oh.
First of all, I cut my teeth on the Cabot tradition. Like, I am, Lori's one of my closest friends, but she is the grand spider of them all. Nobody tells Lori Cabot what's up. Lori Cabot tells you what's up. Like, Maxine tells you how it is, not the other way. She's very respectful about it. She would never, Navi is out there claiming that Maxine demanded that he be recused from the Alexandrian tradition. Presumably said this, now Navi's claiming this, but since Navi is downline from his ex-boyfriend, Oracle Hecateo / Louis Valadez, I have to reasonably assume that it's Louis that told Navi, unless Navi invented it, unless Jonathan invented this. But first of all, Alexandrians don't have reculement. And really, neither do the Gardnerians. It's made up. And I know that Jason Mankey just did this, what is it? Biography of Raymond Buckland. And I'm sure he left out the line from Raymond Buckland's last interview. Not trying to pick on you two. I know your Long Island line. But he did say in this interview that Theos and Phoenix did more damage to the craft with their changes than all the witch hunters in the Middle Ages combined. Which is quite an indictment. Well, one of those things that were made up in the Long Island line was the reculement. And I will say, and I know you love Neil, but I do think it's a little hypocritical for Neil to be Minoan and constantly push Eddie Basinski when Eddie Basinski and Herman Slater were the main reasons reculement was invented. It was to keep them out because they were gay. That's why reculement was invented. So any of these gay men promoting reculement and Eddie Basinski don't make much sense. But
Wait, hold on. When they were all speculating, holy shit. Sorry.
Oh,
wait, you were going to say they were speculating. God. Oh. Shannon's just quietly taking it all in, making notes.
Well, I got a few things to jump in. I'll let Tracy finish her thought.
You were saying.
Sorry.
oh, they're still barking. So go ahead.
Okay.
What do you have to say?
So my question was basically for Deborah, for you and Tracy, like at what point, what responsibility do members have in regards to these values and behaviors? Because like I said, some of this is misleading. It's the whole, you can't sit here, you can't be friends with this person if you want to be friends with us. And to me, that negates all magical purposes. And so at what point do we not only as leaders and as members, at what point do we step up and say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't anything to do with this person's magical practice, magical beliefs. This is a personality issue. This is a personal issue, and it don't belong.
Personality issue.
Yeah.
Well, put it this way. I put up with that crap for about 5 years. 5 years. Anything I did, anything I posted, even well wishes to somebody became an issue, and I would get called out on it. People would back channel me. People would, from midnight, like from 6 p.m. to the first thing in the morning, be like arguing with me about why I'm friends with Christian. And then I heard these utterings about how I was going to be ridiculed. Okay. And I found that out by somebody who was a third degree that said to me, by the way, if you're ridiculed, don't worry, because we'll give you your third degree. And I'm like, ridiculed for what? And apparently it was this thing with the Gardnerian Gather that I apparently allegedly told Christian that it was not true. But
it couldn't have been true. I was introduced to you because of the graphic made.
But they were planning to ridicule me over this. And Deborah and Melissa both said to the greater, whoever were people that were suggesting this, was that I wasn't doing anything. You can't give me a freaking break. You cannot tell people, you could tell people they need to practice the Gardnerian tradition or the Alexandrian tradition. You can tell them they have to abide by their oath. But if I was telling somebody who was just coming into the craft or was seeking, I would say the first thing you need to ask someone who you're going to be petitioning to join their covenant or their outer court group is, what responsibility do you have in my personal life? Because the answer should be none, zero. Nobody should have any influence on your personal sovereignty. Who I'm friends with has nothing to do with my Gardnerian lineage, tradition.
This is even more true in Maxine's lineage of Alexandrian craft. Like, we actually have no socializing rules within the coven, and I can say this because Brian talks about it in his book, but like, we don't have like what Neil has where they go and hang out and talk. Like, once you enter temple night, there's no mundane. I mean, we've broken that rule here and there, obviously. We're all gossipy hens, but we very much strive to not have that, because you are there for the worship, you are there for the gods, you are there for the magic. You are not there for whether Joe and Fred and the coven aren't getting along, or Sally owes Jean money, or any of that sort of thing. Those things can destroy someone's training. It's one of the problems I have with these groups is that, everybody's an expert. God, imagine being a first degree and you're being trained by, Deborah or Tracy, but you're listening to these other people with these cockamamie ideas, you know, and most of them don't even run covens and maybe, you know, got zipped up or, you know, didn't spend a lot of time training.
But this is why, like what Brian said the other day in his video about covens that keep to themselves, that's us. We, as a coven, we don't discuss anything mundane in our circle, but we literally talk to each other every friggin' day. That's the first thing we do in the morning is we are conversing over our private messages, you know, sharing all kinds of things. But when it comes to circle,
Opposite.
What?
For me, like I'm the exact opposite of that. You know, if you're my student, you're my student. I couldn't do the everyday communication.
no, this isn't students. The students are my students are actually being trained by my second degree.
Oh,
But-
okay.
But my coven, my actual coven members are like, we're tight. We're like, a
We don't
family.
even no. I see these people once a week. Now, once in a while, we will go out to dinner, and some of us were friends before, so we don't have the socializing. You know, if I was friends with a particular person before I was initiated, they don't suddenly say, "Oh, no socializing." But it is pretty. I love it because let's face it, even as a first degree, there's going to be people who will join a coven I'm in because it's Christian Day. You know, they buy into that whole celebrity bullshit, which is bullshit. You know, and I love it because, you know, Brian says right out of the gate, if you're joining this, you know, if you're wanting to join this coven, you know, because you just want to hang out with us or, you know, whatever, going about it, you know, you're less likely to hang out with us if you join this coven than if you don't. So, you know, it is a sort of strictness. You know, the social stuff, like, what was it that Jonathan Sousa friend requesting you and then deleting you 15 minutes later because you're friends with me, yet somehow, I don't know how you've run, like,
First of all,
Deborah manages to skirt this because, well, we all know why. But
I don't know this person. I don't know if he's an author. I don't know what
he's on Lulu. I mean, he's, you know,
I don't know if he's Alexandrian Gardnerian. I don't know what he is. I know that he sent me a friend request and I check everybody out and he had a lot of mutual friends. And I said, okay, you know, whatever. And I friended him. And then I get another message from him saying, I'm sorry, I have to end our relationship because you're friends with Christian Day. And he has hurt some of the people I love. I'm like, okay, we can't all be enamored with the same friends. But the same thing happened with the notorious Mortellus. Me and Mortellus were, you know, friends. We would talk all the time. She would say to me, oh, you should.
Relatives into soap. She's the first person to put people's relatives into soap.
I know. And I took her classes on necromancy, and that's how I knew about that. But like she lives here in North Carolina. And she's like saying, oh, you should come up and, you know, visit, and you should come up. Maybe you would like it here in where she lives. And the next thing I know, I bought her book. You know, I'm not even going to name it because why should I? And I'm reading it and I'm enjoying it. And then I went to go send her a message to tell her how much I was enjoying her book. And I said, I see that we're not friends anymore. And I'm like, hey, I noticed we're not friends anymore. You know, what's going on? She goes, I'm sorry. You're a close personal friend to Mr. Day, so I can't be friends with you. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, I was just looking for compassion. And I was like, and I was just looking for friendship. Bye. And that was it.
Compassion.
Yeah.
Okay, compassion. Your mother gets cremated at the funeral home where she is the mortician. And then you go and see that this bitch is selling fucking soap on her website with human ashes, ethically obtained. I can't say on a YouTube channel what I would do if I found out that someone working for a funeral home, like, because it would be so illegal what I would do. Like, I'd probably be in jail if I actually said what I would do if, you know, I found out my mother was cremated and Mortellus, you know, made her into soap. You I did want to just say quickly before I take this off the screen, Jim Sayers is right. Covens are autonomous. So the things, these social issues that they throw at you are really inappropriate and disrespectful of the autonomy. It's one of the reasons a lot of these gender debates you've been seeing among initiates have gotten so quiet, because it's like, well, at some point you have to respect the autonomy of how each coven is run. But I just want to say, because I know the show's not going to last much longer, and there's no way I'm going without getting this one out there. So how do I have to figure out how to share the screen.
I just want to touch on the soap really quick because you brought it up. That whole situation has always bothered me because obviously I make body care products to sell to the public. And there's laws and there's licensing rules and there's health department rules. And I can assure you that there is no county or state that authorizes you to sell things to the public that have human remains in them. They just don't.
First of all, I wrote his Book of the Dead. You can work with the dead without getting gory. Like this, she sold this corpse water from the first washing of the corpse. Do you know how many fucking biological hazards?
Health department, but the health department.
You're blurring again. Oh, there you are.
It's a biohazard.
And it's true, because I addressed this. I took her necromancy course and I said to her, because I'm in the medical field. So the first thing I said to her was, but isn't that the first washing wouldn't have that have all biohazards in it?
It is 100%.
Yes.
Well, that's the reason why it's corpse water. And she made me feel like, and I'm like, no. I don't know how
nasty. She's nasty. Most of the Gardnerians don't even like her now. And for the record, there's no such thing. Sorry, Navi. Sorry, Mortellus. There's in actual initiatory craft, there is no such thing as a priestex. Sorry, not there. Doesn't exist. But one of the things that this apparently is being tossed around the sphere of these groups, besides saying that Maxine and Sharon are my puppets, which is so ridiculous. I mean, they said that Deborah was a plant for me. That's why they didn't let her on the group. First of all, I might be loud.
You're a plant?
They're all my agents somehow. First of all, I'm a first degree. Have I not always been respectful of your level over my, you know what I mean? Like I would defer to you on those sorts of matters because, I am only first degree. You know what I mean? I don't get it. However, one of the things that's going around is apparently that I sent someone kiddie porn in an email and then tried to get them banned from America. Well, okay, if I tried to get them banned from America, then that seems to imply that it's somebody I don't like. Does anybody really believe if I sent kiddie porn to someone I don't like, that wouldn't be reported to the FBI?
They
like these accusations, and that same person claiming that, Maxine demanded Navi be recused. Well, either Navi made that up or Oracle Hecateos made that up. Well, since Lewis wants to get, what did Sean Poirier used to say? If you're going to play the squeeze the titty game with Christian and me, we intend to win. Well, this is what winning looks like. So this is Eddie Mathy. He used to present at WitchCon. And while I've always been the type of person who wants to see a conviction, like even I despised Kenny Klein, but people called me a Kenny Klein defender because they said, well, I don't know the story and he's being accused of having a kiddie porn server. I want to wait and see, if he's convicted, if it's really true. I am one of those people because I do think people will lie. Yes, I know not many people will lie about sexual assault, but people do. People will lie about just about anything, and when they go, why would somebody make up sexual assault? Well, for the same reason the little girls made up the witch trials. They, I believe it was Abigail Williams at 11 years old that said, we do it for sport. You know, when everything else is off the table, attention is always on the menu. So I uninvited Eddie Massey / Melis Karn to WitchCon. And I've unfriended or blocked him or whatever, haven't spoken to him since, but he was extradited from Florida back to Pennsylvania back in 2024 for, wait, why can I not see this? According to police, indecent assault of a person under age 13, corruption of minors, and endangering the welfare of children. Now, to be transparent, I don't know, I don't know, why can I not get the comments? I don't know how the story turned out. So he may have been proven innocent, I don't know. But it was enough for me to, not have this person at the event, at least until it all shakes out in court. I would distance myself. Well, call me a little bit petty, but given the number of times that Luis Valadez / Oracle Hecateos has trashed me publicly, it's like, well, he works for Eddie Massey's shop in Florida. So I publicly said something about this. So next thing you know, I get a call from Raven Digitalis with, Luis Valadez / Oracle Hecateos on the phone. And he's all, how can you say this about me? I said, well, look, why are you still working for this guy? And he continued to work for this guy for several months after all of this was going on. And I ask anybody listening, if this was my face in this picture saying I was wanted for indecent sexual assault of someone under the age of 13, do you think any of my haters would give me the benefit of the doubt? Do you think I'd be invited to anything?
Nope.
So why the fuck are you, Luis Valadez / Oracle Hecateos? Why did you continue to work for this man for months? Unless anybody thinks he's not still around him. This is Eddie Massey's Facebook profile, currently. He posted this on May 4th. Let's go and look at the likes. Not only does Lewis put a heart on Eddie Massey's picture, but he also goes and puts a like under his other account, Oracle Hecateos. So he had to like it twice. And there's his husband, Joey, liking it. So that's like, okay, here's this potential pedophile who at the very least was extradited from Florida to Pennsylvania to face this questioning. And I ask again, does anyone watching this show, fan or hater, really think that I would be given a pass if that was me?
No.
So you, Luis Valadez, and you, Navi Souza, are the biggest fucking hypocrites on the fucking planet.
Well, isn't that what
you pulled your little fucking cap gun out at me. So this, my darlings, this is my bazooka. So I want you to think about this the next time you fucking come for me, because I know where all of the bodies are buried. And whatever you might think you can hurl at me, I can't be canceled socially. Well, maybe socially, but not financially. I'm still at the top of this fucking food chain. You can't cancel me. So when you're hurling these things at me, you may want to consider what I have buried in my garden, what sort of ammunition I have, what sort of weapons are in my arsenal, because I always keep many. So I might not have put that thing up on my screen about Eddie Massey. I might not have done that. I might have spared Luis Valadez his, the exposure of his predilection for potential pedophiles, and I do so love a good alliteration. But Navi saw fit to make these proclamations. This is the man that's living on people's fucking couches. Who knows how many times he's been institutionalized. I imagine there must have been at least a couple for all the times he's tried to kill himself. well, fine. You want to kill yourself, Navi? Go kill yourself, but don't ever think you're going to kill me. Don't ever think that. Because this whole shit this week, this fucking pissed me off. And now you're mistreating my friends here. They already mistreated, and they underestimate Tracy here. When they thought that whole, the same thing with Navi Souza. He thought Tracy was some pushover that, maybe he could just, the same with, I don't get this, by the way, Tracy. Deborah, they treat like the threat that she can be. Like you, I don't know how they don't see you. They have this thing of you that you're so nice. And so they try to step on you, and then they find out what a mistake it was. Because like,
time I am nice, but then when I get to the point where I'm not nice, then it's like, you might as well be dead to me, because it's like, everybody was like, you unfriended. They actually came to me and said, we noticed, you unfriended a lot of us. Well, yeah, I did.
And never look back.
Never look back.
Look back.
Well, that was a power move. And no, that was self-preservation.
It was a power, yeah, but it was a power.
But it was a power move, yeah.
It was a power move, because you basically showed these people you don't fucking matter. It's why I keep telling the both of you, and I've said it to Angela Houston, and I say this to all you Gardnerian priestess who somehow think Deborah Lipp has this sort of power. Gravity is not power. The fact that she's fat doesn't make her big. Sorry. If you don't like, when they would not let Sean and I join Destination Salem back in the early 2000s, we learned from two movies, Evita and Chicago. Evita taught us that if they don't put you in, if they don't allow you to run your own show, when they wouldn't make Eva Perón the head of the various national charities, she created her National Eva Perón Foundation and made all the other ones either irrelevant or illegal. And Chicago says if you decorate it with enough feathers, everybody will want to go. All you need to do is create something people want to go to. I was banned from all Gardnerian and Alexandrian gathers, and there I am, co-organizing the only Alexandrian gather that actually matters. Why? Because it's Maxine. And she's the co-founder of the tradition. She's been around forever. People are going to want to go. Now, you don't have a Maxine because, Patricia's dead and, who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there you could get, but I am going to say this. If I were a Gardnerian high priest or high priestess and I was trying to sell that, not as a money thing, but I mean as a, we want to be the gather everyone wants to go to. If anyone doubts for a second that I could do that, they don't know me. Like, you have to take this. The fact that anybody has it in their mind that Deborah is, queen bee, and frankly, most of them don't. These days, if anybody is getting he's the voice of Gardnerian witchcraft, it's Jason Mankey. And frankly, I would rather it be Deborah Lipp times 10,000. I think Deborah Lipp is at least committed to the gods and the craft and the magic, even though she does things I don't agree with. Jason Mankey is the most insipid creature I have ever seen. And the fact that, and the coward at that, and the fact that he's a face of Gardnerian at all. No, you people that are out, you need to take this back, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I can't do it for you because I'm Alexandria.
I don't see him as the face of, Deborah, as far as, but,
what about the hair? Is he the hair of Gardnerian witchcraft?
Gardnerian witchcraft, because we're all our own gods.
Yeah, but that's not how it's treated. Like, you'd think everyone was in Deborah Lipp's orbit, the way these people talk. And who is she? I didn't even know who she was. Like, I mean, I had her book on the elements at the store, and I only carried it because Tim Reagan was like, you gotta have her. She's a witch queen. I'm like, I don't know who she is. I still really don't know who she is. I just know she don't.
There's a picture of Deborah. Apparently, when she was young, she was upset that, I think it was that they made them say the Pledge of Allegiance, maybe. Like, there was no choice given. and she won. I'm not sure if that's the exact details, but she did something like that, political, when she was quite young, and that was the first time I had ever heard of her. So the witch.
Well, look, I don't know. I also know she married Isaac Bonowitz, and I've heard so many pluses and minuses. I didn't always get along with him. And again, I don't know if he was guilty, but I know that Moira Graylin, who's Marion Zimmer Bradley's daughter, said that Isaac had a go at her when she was a little girl, and, Deborah married this person. So, you know what I mean? I just, you do got to wonder. When you're all talking about pedophile, this and that, Navi Souza, there's Deborah Lip. I married a pedophile. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying I believe or don't believe the Isaac Bonowitz story, because I think Moira Graylin is absolutely insane. And yes, I understand some people can't, tell about their sexual assault until decades later. But what makes Moira Graylin's story different about that is when she finally accused Isaac Bonowitz and Marion Zimmer Bradley, her mother, of sexual assault. Well, 30 years before that, she put her own father in jail for sexual assault. So the whole, it takes time to come forward theory doesn't apply. So if I don't necessarily believe Moira Graylin's story about Isaac Bonowitz, that would be why. That and the fact that I talked to her once and she tried to, really push Jesus. I mean, she's like this hardcore born again Christian.
I had Isaac and Phaedra at my house on the night they got married with my two kids there, and I didn't get.
I didn't know that. I despise her.
And I didn't get any kind of ick from him. I got no. I mean, he was talking to my.
You're son. Also not 6 years old.
They were 6 years old at the time. My kids. What I'm saying.
Oh, so he didn't try to have a go.
No, I never got that impression from him. In fact, when I heard all this stuff coming out, I was like, no, I didn't feel that at all. I mean, he was with my kids. He was talking to my son. In fact, what he said to my son was, I'm probably the most famous person you've never heard of. And my son was like, I think he was 6 or 7. He said, oh, no, I know who you are. But no, I didn't get that feeling at all. Not at all.
Look, I don't know one way or the other. I just know these people in glass houses. You know what I mean? If your person, if your little buddy made the fucking newspaper here, you know what I mean? And, right. Or you got, Moira Graylin all over the news, saying you had to go. Like, what are you fucking pointing in my direction?
Well, yeah, I never got that either.
Like, fuck off with that shit. Like, I've had enough of this. Like this shit with Navi Souza and friggin' Oracle, Hecateos, and, look, I bring receipts. I mean, I'll bring it right up on screen. Hello. You know what I mean? Like, don't go there with me, because I keep records and I'll pull them out. And let's face it, my haters have thrown everything but the kitchen. Well, they've actually included the kitchen sink. They've thrown everything at me.
They have.
And I'm still here. I don't have one lawsuit, other than a procedural wage sort of thing up in Massachusetts that had nothing to do with my personal behavior or anything. I don't like these. First of all, I know that I'm danger of a lawsuit if I actually go out there and say an untruth. And again, like this guy, I don't know how it wound up in the courts in the end, because I've looked and couldn't find it. So chances are he may have been found innocent. But
I don't know if I found innocent, but I see something online that said he was apprehended. I don't know.
Yeah, he was apprehended. But the thing is, it had not wound its way through the courts when Oracle Hecateos just, was determined to continue working for him. So if you're going to come through my house with a white glove, you better make sure there ain't one speck of dust in yours, because I will find it. People tell me everything, I will find it. So why go there? And look, you might think I'm a cunt. It's probably true. I'm a cunt with a heart of gold, but I will try to do. I will always try to do the best I can do in a situation. And I will try to do what I feel is the honorable, just thing. but I will never be a doormat.
Right.
Shannon, your camera keeps going in and out of focus.
No, I got a Mercury. I don't know why it's doing that.
Well, we didn't end up doing our giveaway, so we'll have to, well, actually, maybe there's still time. I don't know.
Wait,
Here,
no,
let
we're
me-
at 1 minute.
Yeah, but I got enough time to post the little,
Okay.
I'm gonna, if you're on YouTube, I'm about to post them.
Well, Deborah and Tracy, thank you for coming on and definitely adding to this conversation. We appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
Well, I hope that this helps that, you know, and again, I think in your case, Deborah, you know, they might say, you know, they might say something like, oh, see, she did tell someone, but you didn't tell anybody. You're telling Neil is not violating your oaths.
No.
You know what I mean? So, and neither is Neil telling Tim. Tim telling me, Tim Reagan, broke his oaths telling me. Granted, you know, I was an initiate, but he didn't know that. You know, so he willingly told somebody that. I'm not going to say the code online because it's only on the YouTube chat, but I will say the code that I've given you for 25% off to Hex is rather an amusing one. So, yeah, I want to thank everybody. And I know we didn't talk a lot about the groups per se, but it was the kind of drama behind it. You know, why are these people being mistreated? Especially when it has nothing to do with their actual craft practice or the magic they do or how they run their coven. It's all these social issues. And, you know, now you're hearing the other side, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you.